What do private jets, $400 per bottle Don Julio 1942 tequila shots in board meetings, and a $47 billion company valuation have in common? They're all part of Adam Neumann's incredible rise and spectacular fall at WeWork. This isn't just another startup story. It's the tale of how one man convinced the world's smartest investors that his physical social network was a tech revolution that just happened to rent desks. While WeWork burned through $1.9 billion in losses during 2018 alone, Neumann lived like a tech billionaire. The question isn't how he built a $47 billion empire. The question is how he fooled everyone for so long. The answer lies in understanding the man behind the madness, the charismatic con artist. Adam Neumann stood 6'5" with long hair, designer jeans and bare feet, walking into investor meetings, claiming he could save humanity through better office spaces. Picture this Israeli immigrant telling room after room of suits that shared desks would elevate human consciousness. The crazy part? They believed him. Neumann arrived in New York in 2001 with big dreams and a questionable track record. His first venture was crawlers, baby clothes with built-in knee pads that struggled because babies quickly outgrow clothing. Then came Egg Baby, a line of collapsible high chairs that also went nowhere. Most entrepreneurs would take the hint. Not Neumann. He saw these failures as stepping stones to greatness. What made Adam different wasn't his business sense. It was his ability to make smart people believe impossible things. He possessed this magnetic quality that turned skeptics into disciples. Former employees described walking into meetings ready to quit only to leave, convinced they were part of a world-changing mission. By 2012, Benchmark led a $16 million Series A, valuing WeWork at $100 million. He didn't just pitch products, he pitched purpose. Neumann positioned himself as a spiritual guru wrapped in startup founder clothing. He talked about elevating the world's consciousness and creating a generation of mindful leaders. During investor presentations, he'd speak about WeWork members as if they were joining a movement, not renting desks. He claimed the company would outlast countries and governments, becoming humanity's permanent solution to work and community. His lifestyle matched his grandiose vision. Neumann spent company money on a $60 million Gulfstream G650ER private jet for surf trips to the Maldives. He installed a $60,000 sound system in the office and brought his personal barista to work. Board meetings included shots of Don Julio 1942 tequila, a $400 bottle, because Neumann believed alcohol sparked creativity. Here's what made this truly remarkable. Neumann barely used a computer and couldn't write code, yet he sold himself as a tech founder. He convinced Silicon Valley's brightest minds that he was the next Steve Jobs. He spoke the language of disruption and transformation so fluently that investors forgot to ask about actual innovation. The secret wasn't in his business model or technology. Neumann's real genius was understanding that people desperately wanted to believe in something bigger than spreadsheets and profit margins. This ability to manufacture faith in impossible dreams would soon transform how he packaged his entire business. The Trojan horse unveiled. WeWork wasn't a tech company. It was a real estate business wearing a Silicon Valley costume. This disguise wasn't accidental. It was the most brilliant con job in startup history, designed to exploit a massive gap in how investors valued different types of companies. Here's the thing about valuations in 2010 onwards. Traditional real estate companies traded at 2 to 5 times their annual revenue. Boring, predictable, unsexy. Tech companies. They commanded valuations exceeding 20 times their revenue. Same business fundamentals, wildly different price tags. Neumann saw this gap and decided to jump across it. The transformation required surgical precision in language and metrics. WeWork never talked about square footage or occupancy rates, the bread and butter of real estate analysis. Instead, they counted members like Facebook counted users. They discussed network effects, as if connecting freelancers in Brooklyn somehow created exponential value like a social media platform. Every presentation focused on community building and lifestyle revolution rather than lease agreements and property management. Neumann packaged mundane office rentals as humanity's answer to workplace isolation. WeWork locations featured open spaces, curated social events, free coffee and beer on tap. They hired community managers instead of building superintendents. Members didn't just rent desks, they joined a movement. The metrics told WeWork's carefully crafted story. While traditional real estate companies reported revenue per square foot, WeWork emphasized member growth rates and community engagement scores. Their presentations looked identical to tech startup decks, complete with hockey stick growth charts treating every office worker on Earth as a potential customer. SoftBank's Vision Fund bought the performance completely. Reports say Neumann closed SoftBank's $4.4 billion deal in 12 minutes, part of a late-night meeting in a car in Hawaii. Masayoshi Son's investment strategy involved making massive bets on companies with smart ideas, and WeWork's presentation aligned perfectly with his criteria for tech-driven disruption. The disguise worked so well that WeWork achieved a $47 billion valuation by 2019. Compare that to IWG, then known as Regus, which is profitable with similar member counts, but traded at just a fraction of WeWork's 13 times higher valuation. Same business model, honest branding, completely different investor reception. But beneath this carefully constructed facade, the financial reality was becoming impossible to hide. The $47 billion house of cards. WeWork's financial hemorrhaging reached unprecedented levels. In 2019, WeWork burned through $2 billion, equating to about $5.5 million a day. In 2018, they had already torched $1.9 billion while generating $1.8 billion in revenue. This wasn't sustainable growth, it was financial suicide. The business model contained a fatal flaw that guaranteed disaster. WeWork signed long-term lease agreements spanning 10 to 15 years, committing to billions in rent payments regardless of occupancy. Then they rented space to members on flexible short-term arrangements. When the economy turned or demand dropped, WeWork still owed rent on empty buildings. By June 2023, long-term lease obligations surpassed $13 billion even as occupancy rates sagged post-COVID. The expansion strategy made everything worse. Each new location added more long-term commitments while hoping short-term revenue would somehow catch up. The math never worked, but Neumann kept opening locations anyway, convinced that scale would solve the fundamental problem. It didn't. Scale just amplified the losses. Neumann's conflicts of interest reached criminal levels of absurdity. He personally owned trademarks for the word we, and sold them to WeWork for $5.9 million. The board approved this deal where their CEO literally sold his company a word. After public outcry, Neumann donated the $5.9 million back to shareholders, but only after pocketing it first. His real estate schemes were equally brazen. Neumann bought properties and then leased them back to WeWork at rates he set himself. He was simultaneously the landlord collecting rent and the CEO spending company money to pay that rent. The board not only allowed this arrangement, they encouraged it. Corporate governance didn't exist. Neumann installed his wife as chief brand officer despite her lack of qualifications. He purchased a $63 million G650 ER jet with company funds for surf trips to the Maldives. Board meetings featured shots of $400 Don Julio tequila because Neumann believed alcohol sparked better decisions. The IPO filing in August 2019 exposed every ugly detail to public scrutiny. The S1 document revealed the massive losses, dubious governance, and culture of excess that investors had ignored during private rounds. WeWork's $47 billion valuation collapsed to under $10 billion within weeks. The IPO was pulled, and Neumann was forced to resign as CEO. Most CEOs who destroy that much value disappear in disgrace. But Adam Neumann had other plans. The ultimate fail upward. After destroying $37 billion in value, Adam Neumann walked away with $1.7 billion and immediately started another company. The exit package was nothing short of outrageous. SoftBank handed Neumann a $185 million consulting fee, $500 million loan to repay his personal debts, and forgave nearly $2 million in personal expenses the company had covered. They even cancelled a $1,750,000 flight debt he'd accrued. While thousands of WeWork employees lost their jobs and saw their stock options become worthless, Neumann secured one of the most generous golden parachutes in corporate history. The audacity didn't stop there. Within 3 years, Neumann launched Flow, another real estate venture focused on residential apartments. The pitch sounded eerily familiar. Transform boring apartment living through community building and innovative technology. Flow promised residents the chance to build equity while living in spaces designed to foster authentic connections. While Flow has teased crypto wallets and rent-to-own equity models, details remain unannounced. Here's what's truly mind-boggling. In 2022, Andreessen Horowitz backed Flow with $350 million for a $1 billion valuation. Pre-revenue. This was the largest single investment the prestigious venture capital firm had ever made. They valued Neumann's new venture at $1 billion based purely on his track record of destroying shareholder value and corporate governance principles. Flow's properties mirror WeWork's aesthetic almost exactly. Flow's Society Las Olas in Fort Lauderdale and a 177-unit building in Miami's Brickell neighborhood launched in 2023, featuring co-working spaces, swimming pools, gyms, and that same modern design language that made WeWork locations Instagram ready. Neumann was essentially running the same playbook with residential real estate instead of office space. What made this especially disturbing was how quickly investors forgot their expensive lessons. The same venture capital ecosystem that enabled WeWork's catastrophic growth was ready to write massive checks to the architect of that disaster. The lack of accountability sent a clear message. Charismatic founders can fail spectacularly and still access unlimited capital for their next venture. This exposes how investors often prioritize storytelling ability over operational competence. They fall in love with narratives about disruption while ignoring basic business fundamentals. But this pattern raises a deeper question about what investors are actually buying. WeWork's story reveals the difference between building companies and building belief systems. Neumann mastered selling dreams while ignoring business fundamentals. His success came from convincing investors they were funding a revolution, not renting office space. Remember, by 2019, WeWork was spending $2 for every dollar earned, the ultimate red flag for any venture. Here's the thing about evaluating ventures. Don't let dazzling slides and rapid growth overshadow EBITDA and cash flow. Solid metrics beat flashy narratives. Investors burn billions chasing the next big thing while missing basic warning signs about unit economics and sustainable growth. Despite WeWork's fate, today's co-working market is worth nearly $15 billion, so the model isn't dead, just the hype. The question isn't whether another WeWork exists today. The question is, which charismatic founder is fooling smart investors right now?